Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Doing well. Good morning. How you been?
Pretty well. Pretty well. Feels like the month is flying by to Christmas. Does it feel like the same for you?
Wouldn't say it's flying by, but yeah, it's
Different to different people.
It's been busy. So, how was your break?
Oh, I'm so honored that you
Listen to
realized
that.
I was
See,
out.
he was
The
out.
interview quality just dropped off. It was good. It was good, Coach. I appreciate you. I appreciate you asking. I would love to ask you how stunned you are that Bill Belichick is a college head coach now.
I mean, I would say I'm stunned because I just think this the way our industry has gone. I think that's a little bit of a new frontier, college football, and I'm sure there's definitely some exciting opportunities, and this sounds like this is one of them. So I wouldn't say I'm stunned, but I mean I'd state the obvious. I mean, because the incredible success he's had in the NFL and where he is in his career, but I'm sure that he obviously put a lot of thought into this, and sounds like a great opportunity.
Obviously, your focus is in the pros, but how similar, Coach, do you see college becoming to the NFL now with NIL and everything? Do you think there's a ton of similarities that could make the transition easier?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's definitely closer to the NFL now than it was before. I think that's obvious. And I mean, in pro football and college football always looked at one another for for ideas and creativity in certain areas, whether it's scheme, facilities. I mean, I think some of the modern day NFL facilities are aligned with some of these big programs in college football. So I mean, there's always been back and forth between college football throughout, but I definitely think it's definitely closer now because of the business model that they're trying to create is going to be in place at the college level.
Coach, you spent a lot of time. You've talked about before the time you spent between Green Bay and Dallas and reflecting on all the different studies that you're doing. Did you ever consider college as a pathway of like, hey, maybe I'd like to get into college?
I did not, and it was it was really a year, just a year off, and there was just a lot that went on during that year. So, but no, I did not consider college football at that time.
I've been arguing with Bobby about this. I already know you're going to say I'm right. There's a story going around that Bill had this 400-page document or binder for his presentation. He said that's greatly exaggerated, but I was like, I can see a coach going into the job interview with a ton of plans and binders and documents. We know you guys have them all in your film study. I'm sure those are X's and O's. Did you have that when you were sitting down with Jerry and Steven? Did you walk with some big binder or presentation?
I'm a binder guy. I do believe in the old school way, but it was a put in a PowerPoint presentation. So just all the different pods, departments, how you facilitate coaching operations tied to training room. But yeah, definitely. So I'm not surprised at all that he had a 400-page binder at all.
Coach, I always think it's silly when I hear like it was like a 5-hour meeting, and I'm like, okay, is that it? Like,
What do you do for 5 hours?
I'm saying 5 hours isn't enough.
Oh.
And getting to know you knuckleheads, like you're going to sit down and spend all this time. You're going to live with these people and work with these people. You need hours and hours and days and days. What do you think is a comfortable time span where you're like, okay, I got a good feel for this. I know I can work with these individuals.
To put a time on it, when you look at it, I mean, going into the morning, spending the day, and then having a dinner that night, and if there's any follow up the next morning, I think that's kind of been the norm. And some have been just flying that morning and leave that night. So, ever how much time that gives you one on one. But there's everybody does it a little differently, and I think the other part too is you got to realize you're not the interview process. Just doesn't start from the time you arrive at the facility or, step into the meeting and the time you leave. I mean, you're pretty much interviewing, your whole career. So, I mean, there's obviously a lot of background and a lot of other conversations that go into those decisions.
Coach, I'm curious, we talk about how the concepts or the two sides are sort of starting to blend a little bit in the NIL era. The last couple of years when you've been at, Indy, or you've had guys come through for pre-draft interviews and some of these young players that are coming into the league, have you noticed any difference or evolution in mentality or approach with young players, like the young NIL era players?
Yeah, I think I would say they're exposed to more. So definitely, I think there's there's more. Definitely, their experience level and what they're able to engage is definitely different than to the past generation, without a doubt. So it's a new experience that these young men are going through. Prior to the National Football League, and so definitely, it's definitely different.
Mike McCarthy joining us here at 105 through the Fan. And I don't want to relive the whole punt thing, but we were having this discussion with Babe Laufenberg yesterday. And he was going back and forth, and he would go back and forth with Jason Garrett about what you do in terms of coaching instincts and reactions out of players. You don't want them to lose the reaction, you don't want them to lose the instinct, but you also want them to play smart. What is your philosophy on that? How do you coach instincts out of players? Because the instinct is ball on the ground, get the ball.
Well, yeah, I think it's definitely, it goes further than that. I mean, you don't, there's obviously, instinct, balls on the ground, go get the ball. I mean, that's a responsibility in a lot of situations. I mean, really the instincts and awareness is just to continue to coach the game situations. We spend a tremendous amount of time on those game situations. So, the breakdown is in the awareness, the heightened awareness that what the play situation transferred into it, and it was a tough spot because of where the both guys were. They were in a vice situation, and they were pretty much out of bounds and coming back inbounds with the ball on the ground. So, but yeah, to me it goes more to the area, the situational, competitive, in competition, competitive situation that changes during plays where the heightened awareness comes. So you just simulate those situations over and over and over again. That's really what we do on Fridays and Saturdays every week in season, and do it every day at training camp. So, and that's that was a tough one. That was a tough one, and definitely something you just got to always try to recreate.
Are there rules that coaches don't even bother going over because they just should be so ingrained in the player since the age of 12?
No, I wouldn't say that. To be honest with you, I think it's like watching video. You have to go over. You need mental reps just as much as you need physical reps. We have a game management segment every week where the whole league is cut up just because we want it to be current. Because things, our league is about trends and how things tend to happen in bunches and things like that. So this is something we do spend a lot of time on, and it's the same thing with the fundamentals, particularly the ball security. When we feel that our numbers and our performance in a certain area of fundamentals isn't as high as we'd like it to be, so that's another segment that's cut up every week and presented into the team meetings. So there's constant reinforcement on the fundamentals of game situations and the game management.
Coach, the offensive line has played pretty well the last couple of weeks, even with the different players being swapped in and out and some of the shifting you guys have done. Why do you think that group has been able to gel so effectively, even with all the moving parts?
Well, you just got to give those men the credit, and in the atmosphere and culture that's established in that O line with the coaches. I think Brock Hoffman deserves a lot of credit there because his personality and that's a real strength of his. He's a connector. He's definitely a glue personality. But it's like anything when you go through changes, you definitely have to make sure that the communication is heightened, and I think those guys have done a great job of that. So because when your communication's in line, you play fast, you play free, and and that's what that group is doing.
And kind of going hand in hand in that, Rico Dowdle has been fantastic the last several weeks. What are some of the specific traits that you like about Rico as a running back? Just taken from, I mean, he was here as an undrafted free agent your first year in Dallas, has hung around on the roster the entire time to now where he's a lead back. What are the things that you've looked at over these 5 years that said, this is why I've wanted Rico around?
Oh, well, I mean, his first impression, clearly, it's his run style. I mean, Rico has such an aggressive, run style, and that's that was the first impression of him. I mean, the first time he touched the ball, he scored a touchdown on a kickoff. So, I mean, he just I love the way he attacks the defense when he's running the football, and he's very bright, has a very high understanding of the game. Understands run blocking, the protection part of it, and he played quarterback in high school, so he has a high football IQ. But he's just a really good football player that had to go through some injury challenges his first couple of years, and it's been great to see him have this success.
Mike McCarthy on the D&M Leasing Hotline every single Friday at this time here with Sean, RJ, and Bobby. Coach, it seems like Bryce Young has turned a little bit of a corner here after a ton of questions about his status as the number one pick. What have you seen recently from Bryce on tape?
I think he's really playing in a good rhythm, in the pass game. But I think the biggest thing is extended plays. The scramble. He's done a really good job in the playmaking. I mean, he pretty much almost won that Philadelphia game, himself. There in that last series. The fourth down conversion, and also had a chance to make a big play that this came up short. But just been really impressive with his poise and the way he's maximizing each snap in the passing game.
You mentioned poise. Like when he was in college, I mean, it looked like he never sped up. Like he was always under control. In the beginning of his NFL career, it looked like the game was a little fast. Have you seen that has kind of slowed down for him?
Man, that's a hell of an observation by you.
Oh, thank you.
You must have played well in that Tennessee game. But he did. Sorry about that. I agree. No, I agree with you. I think there was always a real strength of his, and it seems like he's comfortable in this offensive system. And fairness to him, he's had change, his whole time there, and that's always tough on a young quarterback. But yes, he seems very, very poised, and he's playing with a different flow clearly this year than last year.
Coach, when you have a player like Jonathan Mingo who's going back against his former team for the first time, do you during the week just, have a moment where you pull him aside and just have a conversation, just check in like, hey, where are your emotions at? Where's your focus at? Do you have those type of talks when guys are going back to a former team the first time?
Yeah, definitely. Usually it's not a big deal. But, and also that's something that, usually comes out of the position coaches' conversations earlier and so forth. But, yeah, Jonathan's a pretty even-keeled personality, so I really don't have any concern of him going back to Carolina.
Coach, are you satisfied with what you've gotten out of him so far, and where is he in his development with you guys?
Yeah, he's definitely what you thought that he was, physically, but it's just like any player. I mean, getting traded at that time, that late, and in jumping in, it's definitely going to be an adjustment, and he's getting more and more comfortable each week.
It's good to be back with you, Coach. I missed you. Thank you for the time, as always. Have a great day, and we'll see you on Sunday. Good luck.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Take care.